Hey everyone, it's your favorite ski mask wearing idiot. If you haven't noticed already, I kinda like Nerf / foam dart blasters a lot. But as much as I love these blasters and by extension the surrounding community, there's some things I wish were a bit different. Hence why I'm making another 5 things I wish Nerf had. But to clarify, when I say Nerf, I mean the foam dart blaster hobby as a whole, not just the company, and this list is in no particular order. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. For my first wish, I wish we had official disassembly and reassembly guides. I remember when I wanted to paint up my Dart Zone Mark III, I obviously needed to disassemble the majority of the blaster for a paint job. But the only problem was I couldn't really find any guides for disassembling the Mark III anywhere. While I do enjoy picking apart blasters and figuring out how they work, I wanted to be extra careful with my Mark III because it was the only high performance flywheel blaster I had at the time. And if I royally mess something up during the disassembly or reassembly, I'm cooked. At the end, I didn't paint the whole shell, but rather smaller parts. This is where I think official disassembly and reassembly guides would have been super useful. Companies like Dart Zone, Xshot, and Worker have all openly been extremely mod friendly as of late, especially when compared to Nerf. So coming out with official guides would definitely help them appeal even more to the hobby as a whole and benefit us in the process as well as parents. I vaguely remember breaking a blaster when I was a kid, asking my dad if we could do anything about it and seeing him go straight to Google to see if we can. On top of that, a benefit of having the company itself come up with the guide rather than a community member, for example, is that the people writing or helping write the official guide are likely the designers of the blaster, and they'll be able to bring an extremely in-depth guide because they worked on the blaster and they likely know the design inside and out. The only 2 downsides I could see happening is that they could get sued, maybe, because people are stupid, and that writing the guide is obviously going to take some time, but hey, a man can dream. For Wish 2, I wish we had more cooler venues to play at. So a lot of places Nerfers tend to play at either tend to be public parks, other private property we've had permission to play at like gymnasiums and churches, airsoft, paintball, or laser tag fields that are willing to host Nerf games as well, and for HVZ events there's also the college campuses. But despite the vast array of venues we can play at, I wish we had some more extremely unique ones as well. Or maybe a venue that's structured like a small apartment complex that also has a usable area outside. In that venue there's one team that's spread all across the complex and a team that's entering the building. I think that would be pretty cool, and I think people outside of Nerf like airsofters would also really like the idea of these venues. For my third wish, I wish we had more blasters using double stack mags. Now, double stack mags for full length darts do exist. There's the full length worker denominator mags, and that's about it. Nobody has really committed to the idea of using strictly double stack mags for a blaster in a while, and I think for good reason. There's the end strike standard for full length darts and the Talon standard for short length, essentially making their respective dart type have a standard magazine that almost every mag-fed blaster uses. And if we throw double stack mags in the mix, it will mess with that standardization. A lot of us really like the standardization because you can bulk buy a ton of Talon mags, for example, and you're pretty much set to use the majority of mag-fed short-length blasters. But suddenly there's this new blaster that doesn't take the mag that everyone else uses, and you have to invest in more magazines for this one blaster. But nonetheless, I would still like to see more blasters use double stack mags because I think it will be very interesting despite probably not being able to use the standard magazines we already have and potential reliability issues. You see, the reason why double stack mags work with actual ammunition is because the brass case of the ammo is solid, whereas if you look at a foam dart, they tend to be a little squishy. So that could cause feeding issues, but again, despite the drawbacks, I would still like to see it because I think it's neat. For my fourth wish, I wish we had more community-made reshells. So there's this guy in the community, Genco Megaworks, and he makes a ton of 3D printed Xshot micro reshells, essentially taking the small little blaster and using the hardware from it to make it lever action or just give it a completely different look and ergo. I can't help but feel like this should be more common because when you're building a 3D printed blaster, part of the process is having to source the hardware needed to build it. But if your blaster's hardware comes from an already existing blaster, all you need to do is buy the blaster and bam, the vast majority of the hardware is already in your hands, you just need to get it out. On top of that, someone can just take a blaster that is already very popular in the community and potentially make something almost completely different out of the same hardware and 3D printed parts. Genco Megaworks has been able to do so much with the Xshot Micro alone, so imagine what people can do with the hardware of the Aeon Pro X, for example. Like could give it a completely different look and an entirely different way of priming it, like lever action. I think it would be pretty neat, and it'll give people just starting to build 3D printed blasters a good jumping off point to get their feet wet with the process. And for my fifth and final wish, I wish more people were open to try Nerf now. I feel like a lot of people nowadays aren't willing to give modern Nerf a try, and when I say modern Nerf, I mean like 150 and 200 FPS level of play that has increasingly become more popular. Because a lot of people look at me, for example, and think, oh, he's playing with a 70 FPS child's toy, that's stupid, he should play Airsoft instead. Like, no, that's not what I'm using, and if you were to give what I'm using a chance, maybe you would like it. But foam darts are naturally going to be associated with Nerf, and Nerf is going to be associated with 70 FPS child's toy, and that makes people not want to try it. So I wish more people were open to trying it, but no matter what we do, the hobby is always going to be associated with Nerf, the brand, and that's going to turn some people off, or they're just going to think it's ridiculous. So showing people what we actually use and how fun it could be could encourage people to try it out before making a judgment. So that does it for this video. If you enjoyed, please do leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you have your own thoughts and ideas, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear them. So yeah, that's about it. See ya.